Hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for our third Accommodation Open Week session called Safe and Secure, You and Your Wellbeing in Halls. It's really great to have you all here. In this session, we're going to go through the support, assistance and services on offer whilst you're in halls and at the University of Southampton. We want you to feel safe, comfortable and supported throughout your time here, giving you a great foundation to make the most of your studies and social life. Of course, university life, as with all things, has been affected by the pandemic, and through the course of the talk you will hear how we have responded to this challenge, supported our students and created a safe living environment through this time. So, as you can see from my background, my name is Dan Watson, and I and the rest of the panel are going to take you through everything we do to make your stay with us as enjoyable and hassle-free as possible. In our panel today, we have Dan Barnes, an Assistant Facilities Manager in Domestic Services, Sophie from our Student Support Hub, and Lawrence from our Enabling team. To get us started, I'm going to take you through how we support you on site and some of the measures we in residences and the university have taken in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Okay, so first up, we have 24-hour receptions on all of our sites. So what this means is that during the day in the week, we have the residential services team, that's the team that I'm part of. And then overnight and at the weekends, we have our security team on site. So at any time, there's always people there if you need any support or if you have any issues. And it also means that you can receive and collect parcels at any time. And yeah, there's always someone that can point you in the direction of support services, some of which Lawrence and Sophie are going to talk about later on. As I mentioned, our on-site security team are there over the weekends and the evenings, and they are supported by our university security team. So both of those security teams are around and working 365 days a year. We do offer 24-hour emergency maintenance call out. So if there's anything that goes really wrong, like your power's out or you have a leak or anything like that, we will be able to get someone to you within 2 hours, no matter what the time of day. And for more kind of routine things, we do have a maintenance reporting system that you just log on and log whatever the issue is, and someone will come and fix that for you. So you don't have to worry about if anything does go wrong. We can get that fixed for you nice and easily. In each of our sites, we do have 3 layers of security. So what I mean by that is that your bedroom door will have its own lock, so you can lock that when you go out. Your flat door will have another lock, and then the door to your block will also be secure. So whether or not that's a code or a key or a fob, there's 3 things that you need to get through to be able to get to your flat door. So that's lots of additional security there. At each of our sites, we have our site managers, supervisors, and we also have the on-call team. So the site managers and the supervisors and all the rest of the residential services staff are the people that kind of work to make sure that everything runs smoothly and your halls stay safe and enjoyable. As I'm sure you can appreciate, there's lots of stuff that goes on in the background to make sure that everything works. And the on-call team is there basically for if anything major goes wrong out of hours, so you can be safe in the knowledge that someone with the right expertise will be on site nice and quick to handle any situation that might arise. With arrivals, we do provide certain things when you arrive, and this year with quarantine students and with the added pressures of the pandemic, we have offered additional things. So every year when people arrive, they get a welcome pack. In the welcome pack will be your bus pass. So your bus pass covers free travel in the Southampton area. And we've kind of gone over the bus pass a bit in our session yesterday. Obviously, you'll get your key, and there'll be a link to our online halls guide. And then optionally, as kind of additional things that we can supply and have supplied, we can supply you with bedding packs, we can supply food packs, we can supply kitchen packs, which have things like plates, cutlery, kettles, toasters, rice cookers and things like that. So whilst unfortunately, like everyone else, we're not sure what is going to be happening in September, this does kind of go to demonstrate that we can provide you with everything you need. So even if you arrive and you aren't able to access anything, we can supply you with absolutely everything you would need, even down to the foods you need to eat. Okay, so I'm going to go on and just talk a little bit about some of the extra things that we've put in place this year to help with stopping the spread of coronavirus. So we have put additional screens in reception, as you probably expect, similar to all of the screens you see in supermarkets and other shops. They're in receptions. We've put loads of hand sanitizer stations all around our sites and blocks. So outside every single block entrance is a foot pump hand sanitizer, like the one in the top picture there. And you can see the reception screens in the bottom picture there. And we've been doing loads of extra touchpoint cleaning. I won't go into that in too much detail because Dan Barnes is going to cover that shortly. We've also spread our arrivals over longer periods. So normally our arrivals period is one weekend towards the end of September. That is usually quite a manic weekend with lots of people piling in, and it's obviously quite difficult to facilitate any kind of social distancing with those numbers of people all descending onto site at the same time. So we spread it out over a longer period this year. Just gone. So yeah, if we need to do that again in September, that is something that we can look to do as well. We do have social distancing and face coverings that are being used all around the sites, so that's staff and students. So yeah, there's kind of one-way systems in place. There's one in, one out at receptions. There's floor markings to help people social distance. Like I say, face coverings are mandatory when you're moving around the buildings and you're at receptions, and this is true for staff and for students. And staff also have additional PPE if they need to attend and fix maintenance in certain areas. So yeah, we have been wearing all of the PPE that we need to. We have moved a lot of our processes and information online so that people don't need to come down and visit reception. So as I mentioned, we do have an online halls guide. So previously our halls guide was a printed booklet that you got in your welcome pack, and we've put that all online, which is really helpful because this year obviously things change all the time and the information changes really quickly. So it's really helpful to have like an online resource that you can go to and find all of the most up-to-date information about what we're doing. We've also had bookings put online for things like common rooms, desks, workstations and stuff like that, so that we're making sure that we're keeping to the right levels of people. In Southampton, we have had saliva testing. So this is a non-invasive coronavirus test where basically you just spit in a test tube and then you put it in one of the post boxes that are around campus and all of the hall sites. And then 24 hours later, you'll get a result saying whether or not you've tested positive for coronavirus. So this has been really, really instrumental in our coronavirus response because it's meant that we find out really quickly when someone does have coronavirus, and we can, respond to that accordingly. Some of the things that we do there, Dan Barnes is going to talk about in a little bit as well. We have implemented a joint code of conduct with Solent University. So that kind of sets out what kind of behaviours we expect from our students and that we need people to kind of adhere to in order to keep us safe, and it kind of sets out clear expectations. And then on top of all of that, though, whilst we can put all of these things in place, it is really important that we all do take our kind of individual responsibility and ownership. So we can only do so much to make sure that people are staying safe. And obviously, as you can see, we have done a lot. But you do need to make sure you are taking your own precautions and kind of adhering to the guidelines and the advice that we give as well. Okay, great. So that's pretty much all from me on that. So I'm going to be handing over to Dan Barnes now. He is an assistant facilities manager for domestic services, who will cover the role of what our domestic services team do and how they've adapted their service during the pandemic. I'm sure you're all keen to hear this, as we all know that cleaning is a crucial tool in the fight against coronavirus. And he'll also be explaining what domestic services do when there isn't a pandemic. So over to you, Dan.
Hi everyone, my name's Dan, and as Dan said, I'm one of the assistant facilities managers responsible for the domestic services team in halls. So I'm going to talk to you today briefly about what we do within domestic services and how we've responded to the coronavirus pandemic. So what we do, we are responsible for all of the cleaning, the recycling and waste management in halls. Due to the pandemic, we've had to adapt how we do this in order to reduce the risk of transmission between staff and students. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we've done that. So we have developed a new daily schedule of cleaning within our common spaces and high traffic areas, which actually exceeds the minimum requirements that universities have to do. This, as Dan has already said, includes touchpoint cleaning, which focuses on areas that are touched by multiple people a lot of times during the day. For example, door handles is a classic one. We've provided hand sanitizer so that staff and students can follow good hand hygiene practices, and we're responsible for keeping those topped up at all times. We've had a big focus on our reception areas and toilets and laundries, which are probably our highest traffic areas, by increasing the cleaning in those areas and focusing a lot on the touch points there. And we've also increased the cleaning of our external areas, such as seating areas, handrails, keypads and buttons, which will be used by lots of people, again, to reduce that risk of transmission. So in terms of equipping our staff to do that, we've provided them all with PPE, which includes disposable gloves and disposable face masks of the surgical kind, as you can see in the picture. These are single use and are exchanged each time a staff member moves to a different area to, again, reduce that transmission risk. We've also provided additional items when staff have had to clean in maybe more higher risk areas. So these includes the face visors and aprons as well. We've also provided staff with correct training on how to use this PPE and how to dispose of it safely, as well as providing additional training for the additional cleaning products that we've bought in to use in disinfecting different types of surfaces, which includes soft surfaces such as fabric seats, as well as different hard surfaces. And all of this has worked together to reduce that risk to staff and to students. As Dan mentioned earlier, there has been some onus on students to be involved in this because it is a joint effort in order to reduce that risk of transmission. So the students themselves have been responsible for cleaning within their own flats. We have provided students, however, with some help and equipment to do this. So at the beginning of the year, a cleaning guide was given to every single flat, which had sort of handy hints and tips for cleaning each part of the flat. We provided every flat on arrival with a cleaning pack, which included all the different equipment they would need and would give them an idea of what they would therefore need to go and buy as the term went on, as the year went on. And we also provided a handy video as well, just to give a visual example of how we needed this cleaning to take place. As there have been some cases at the university, although these have been very low, thanks to all the efforts of our staff and students, we recognise that additional support is required for those that need to self-isolate. So we've provided students with some different services that will enable them to do this as hassle-free as possible. So we provided a complimentary laundry service through a third-party contractor for all students during their 2-week or 10-day isolation, so they could still obviously continue to have clean clothing. Whenever an isolation happened, whether that was a positive case or symptoms reported by students, then we provided a contract cleaner to come in and clean all of the touch points and the common spaces such as the kitchens and things within flats to again reduce that risk of transmission to other people within that household. And we also provided an additional cleaning pack of supplies so that students could continue to do this themselves throughout the isolation period. And finally, we had a waste collection service for those flats as they were not able to go and take the waste out themselves. All of this enabled students to self-isolate in as hassle-free and with as little disruption as possible, and reducing that risk of transmission therefore to other flats. So looking forward, although it isn't completely clear when and how the country as a whole will move out of the pandemic, we do see some light at the end of the tunnel. We will be continuing with the current cleaning offer until December 2021. And alongside this, we will be providing regular flat inspections to assist students to maintain that high standard of cleaning and hygiene. However, we are constantly reviewing all of the available guidance to help us make decisions about potential future changes to this offer. Thank you very much for your time. I will be available in the Q&A session to answer any of your questions. And now I will hand back to Dan Watson.
That's great. Thank you very much, other Dan. So as you can see, loads of effort goes into keeping our hall sites clean and as safe as possible. Next up, we're going to hear from Lawrence, who works in our enabling team. He's going to tell us about some of the teams and services that there are to help those with additional needs or welfare issues. So over to you, Lawrence.
Thanks, Dan. Hi everyone. My name is Lawrence Pearman. I'm the lead practitioner here at Enabling Services. Today, I'm here to provide a very brief overview of the support offered through our team and how we then fit in with the accommodation services. At the end of the slides today, there will be information on our website, which covers things in a bit more depth or detail. So if you had any kind of questions or things you wanted a bit more information on, that is often a perfect place to start. There will also be our contact details. So if there's maybe questions to do with your specific circumstances, again, please do get in touch. So who are we? So we're part of the Student Services Hub here at Southampton. We work to offer support and assistance to all students throughout their time of studying here. With COVID safety in mind, we've successfully been employing a blended approach to providing support. So this involves doing things both in a face-to-face manner and through a virtual setting, depending on the student needs. For those of you lucky enough to have visited the campus prior to the lockdowns, we're not traditionally based in Building 37 on the Highfield campus, but also tend to venture out where we're required. So what do we offer? So here at Enabling Services, we offer a range of support covering kind of the following areas. So we offer support around mental health and wellbeing support. So here we provide support and assistance for any student that might be having a difficult or challenging time. This can be picked up through student support appointments, one of our many drop-in sessions, workshops, group events, or through the self-help resources that we provide to students. We also offer disability support, where we work with students with long-term health conditions or disabilities to provide or put in place reasonable adjustments and support. This covers quite a wide range of areas, including the course itself, the campuses that you might be accessing, and your university accommodation. We also pick up support or provide assistance for students with specific learning difficulties, such as dyslexia or dyspraxia. Offer study skill support to students, so looking at areas of things including things like time management or structuring of essays or work. Learning support, so maybe things like note-taking, library support, or campus orientation. And also look at recommendations around exams, so potentially things like extra time. I guess prior to your arrival here at Southampton, and also very much once you arrive in Southampton, you will receive an awful lot of information around the sorts of support that will be available to you while studying. However, as a bit of a taster, I thought it might be helpful just to kind of highlight a few of the areas that are a little bit more unique to the wellbeing support that we offer here. Thinking about some of those areas, we offer counselling support, which is kind of the more formal support we offer here. So the counselling support tends to be short term, but does kind of cover a range of areas. So that kind of includes things like the more traditional counselling client focused support option, but also ranges through to areas like EMDR therapy, which is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. Gosh, always a mouthful to say. I mean, I guess in terms of if you were interested in counselling support, what we wouldn't expect you to do is to be an expert in that area and to prescribe to us exactly what you need. But instead, what we'd look to do is provide a collaborative process where we'd get an understanding of your situation and then start to pair you with the most relevant service or support to your kind of needs. Another area to highlight would be our first support team. I guess our first support team is a team or a service that I always like to mention, but actually hopefully one that you won't have to have any contact with. I mean, First Support are our team here that provides support to students that are maybe facing significant difficulties in their life, or maybe dealing with particularly overwhelming circumstances. The team itself then offers an opportunity to talk things through, maybe to start to look at things like practical steps that might be useful in this situation. And I guess they're also there to help that student build up a bit of a support network, either within or throughout the university, or kind of making use of third-party areas to kind of make sure that there's a support package in place. So once the First Support team moves away, that yeah, those difficulties aren't going to continue or are much more manageable moving forward. I guess the final area of support to kind of mention would be around the student life team. So the student life team predominantly supports students whilst living in halls. They're there to offer assistance with student well-being, and also there to help enhance the student experience. So what this means in practice is they run a number of events to get students out of their room and socialising, kind of in a COVID-safe manner. They're also there and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So that kind of means if maybe it's 3 a.m, you're awake, maybe feeling particularly kind of homesick, if there was someone you kind of needed to talk to or wanted to talk to, student life could be an option in that scenario. I guess thinking a little bit more specifically about the work that we do with accommodation, as that kind of the theme for today. I mean, as a new student arriving at the university, if during your UCAS application at any point you've disclosed a health condition or a disability, the enabling service team will be reaching out to you to discuss your needs. Primarily, this kind of involves completing a very short questionnaire, and then following this, you'd have the opportunity to meet with one of the specialist practitioners within the team. This appointment would be an opportunity to explore your needs, and then to look at what we could best provide to kind of work with your circumstances. Thinking about the sorts of adjustments that we can offer for the rooms within accommodation, this might involve things like a flashing alarm or vibrating pillows for students with hearing impairments. It might be around recommending the use of a ground floor kind of location. For some students, it might be looking at things like an early arrival date, so potentially a day or two in advance of the crowds kind of coming, or use of things like a mini fridge within the room, a sharps box. I guess it very much is situation dependent. I mean, I think if you have any kind of questions regarding your room or concerns about kind of the general setup, one of the things that I would very much encourage is just to reach out to the team here, and we can start to kind of pick that up with you as we go along. Yeah, so thanks for kind of listening and things. I will be around for the Q&A session kind of after this, but as I was kind of saying, if you do have questions that are specific to your circumstances, please do get in touch with us at Enable or the number there, and we can start to talk that through with you as we go. Thanks. Yeah, back to you, Dan.
Thank you, Lawrence. That's all really helpful stuff to know. Like Lawrence said, he will be around until the end, so if you have any questions for him in the Q&A. And there's also lots more information on the Enabling webpage. If you do have a specific question for Lawrence and the Enabling team that we don't manage to answer in the Q&A, like he said, you can contact them on enable@southampton.ac.uk. You can also find out more information about student life by watching our Monday session. And we have Jenny from the student life team available in the Q&A as well if you have any questions for her. So coming up next, we have Sophie from the Student Support Hub, who's going to explain what they do to support you whilst you're here. Over to you, Sophie.
Thank you. So hello, my name is Sophie, and I'm here to tell you just a little bit about the Student Support Hub, what we do and how you can contact us. So we are here to help with your queries both before you arrive at the university and whilst you are studying here, to help you make the most of your university experience. We are available 24/7 by email, phone and online chat. There are lots of things that we can help with. For example, we can help with accommodation, including when you're making your application during your arrival, and any further queries that may pop up whilst you are in your accommodation. We can help with accommodation and tuition fees, both helping with making payments and also advising about financial support. We can help with ID cards, including how to collect your card and helping if there are any technical problems that do occur. And finally, we can also help direct you to where you need to go if you come to us with a query that we can't answer, or if we need to direct you to further support services. So you can email us, it's ssc@sotton.ac.uk. We will then respond to you directly to help resolve your issue. Our phone number is on the screen now, and there are a few options that you can select when calling us to help direct you to the relevant team. So option 1 is for accommodation and fees. Then option 2 is for wellbeing, which includes student life. And then option 3 is for enabling services. We are open 24/7, so there will always be someone there to answer your call. You can also chat to us. This is available once you have enrolled at the university. On screen is a QR code that you can scan to then be directed to the online chat, and you can also find the link to that on our website. So as we are open 24/7, there will always be someone around to answer your queries or provide further assistance. If you do have any further queries, please get in contact, and you can also ask them in the Q&A session. So thank you very much, and I'll now pass back to Dan.
Thank you very much, Sophie. So that's all of our kind of talks and presentations. So it's almost time for the question and answer section of the session, which will open shortly. But before we do that, I'm just going to explain a little bit about how it will work. So we will try and get through as many as we can, but if today is anything like the previous 2 sessions, there's unfortunately no way we will be able to get through all of the questions within 30 minutes. As such, we'll only be answering questions that will be widely applicable to lots of people. If your question doesn't get published or answered, please don't post it again. After all the sessions have been held, we will be creating a video answering most of the questions we didn't manage to answer at the time, and that will go on to our Accommodation Open Week website. Make sure to like any questions that you do want to know the answers to, and we'll try and elaborate on the answers with the most we'll try and elaborate and answer the most popular ones live. Thank you very much, everyone. So we're going to start with a few pre-submitted questions, but please do feel free to start submitting your questions now in the Q&A chat, which should be open now. So Dan Barnes, first question is for you. Out of the following list of items, what is and isn't provided? So we've got vacuum cleaner, mop and bucket, iron and ironing board.
Thanks, Dan. Good question. So of those, all are available apart from the irons. So we will provide all of those apart from the irons. Would suggest waiting until you arrive to purchase an iron, though. Otherwise you might find that all of your flatmates also buy one, and that may not be necessary. But yes, we will be for mops and buckets. We will provide you with those, and we will also replace the mop heads for you when required. And the ironing boards are available from the operations team on sites.
Thanks very much, Dan. That's great. So a question for you coming up next, Lawrence. So how can you support someone with allergies, both in ensuring they're in a room that will be suitable for them and in helping them move if they end up in a room that isn't suitable for them?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I guess in terms of the allergies, it is going to depend a little bit on, I guess, kind of what the allergy is. So, I mean, I think if that's maybe your general query, one of the things I would be encouraging you to do is to reach out to the service here to kind of have that sort of discussion. I mean, I guess just thinking about a range of the things that we do often put in place, it might be depending on the situation, looking at kind of the floor setup. For some students, it might be looking at things like having an ensuite room versus not. Yeah, it might be if they were kind of going down the catered route, what information we would provide to the catering team kind of in advance. Yeah, I guess it would very much depend on the specifics, because I guess allergies in general is quite a wide range. So yeah, probably kind of contact enabling services would be a great first step, and we can kind of pick that up with you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Lawrence. So we're going to field a question over to you now, Carl, if that's all right. So this one is, are residents insured against theft within our halls?
Thanks, Dan. So included with your halls contract, you will get a basic contents insurance cover, which does cover items in your room and also some things in your kitchen. What I'd like to point out firstly is actually we don't, particularly I've worked for the university for 8-9 years. I've not known anyone have to claim for theft on their contents insurance, but it's nice to know it's there in terms of peace of mind. That contents insurance, as I say, covers things in your room. So again, if there was a leak or something and it was to damage items in your room, or if you know, something like the freezer was to pack in overnight and you lost all your frozen items, those kind of things are covered. So again, it gives you that good peace of mind. You can also, and I think it's a very kind of competitive price, if you want to extend the cover provided, you can also use it to cover insurance for bikes or laptops or things like that that you may take away from halls as well. But as I say, that basic contents insurance is all covered in your halls contract as part of your.
Thanks, Carl. So this is just the last of our pre-submitted questions, and then we'll move over to some of the questions that have just come in live. But this one is for you, Sophie. So how do student loans work? Are they means tested, and do you need to have your loan confirmed before you apply?
Thank you, Dan. So you may be able to borrow money to help pay for university or college tuition fees and to help with living costs. All information from how to apply, how much you may be eligible for, and the online application process can all be found online on the gov.uk website. Most students will be able to make an application online, and you just need to follow these steps, which is to set up a student finance online account, log in and complete the online application, include your household income if needed. Your parent or partner will be asked to confirm these details, and then send in proof of identity if needed. Once completed, then you can check the process of your application, and then once your loan is confirmed, you can check how much is being paid to the university for tuition fees and how much is being paid to you as the maintenance loan. So in order for your maintenance loan to be released to you, you will need to be marked in attendance at the university, and this will be completed closer to the start of term. If you are a postgraduate student, all of your loan will be paid to you directly, and you then need to yourself make the relevant accommodation and tuition fee payments. You also need to reapply for funding in each year of your studies. So student finance will use your household income in the previous tax year to work out how much student finance you are eligible for, specifically the maintenance loan. So if you're making an application for the 21-22 academic year, then student finance will use the 2019-2020 tax year to calculate the funding available. So your maintenance loan can change depending on what your household income is showing as for that tax year. There is an option if you expect your household income to drop by 15% or more compared to the tax year previously. That is called the current year income assessment. That information would be on the student finance website. In terms of applying to halls whilst waiting to hear back from student finance, you don't need to. You can make the accommodation application now. What is useful to do is to check your funding eligibility. So basically giving you a rough idea of what you will receive, and then you can just compare that to the accommodation costs to see what is within your budget. We do encourage you to make an application for accommodation now, whether Southampton is your firm or insurance choice, just to make sure that the application is in and that your application is submitted by the accommodation guarantee deadline of the 1st of August.
Great, thank you very much, Sophie. So that's all of our pre-submitted questions done now. So now we'll try and get through some of the ones that have come in the Q&A session now. So first up, we have how long a guest allowed to stay at a time. So I'll take this one. So you are allowed, obviously, to have overnight guests. If it's anything over 3, whilst there's not like a hard and fast rule in terms of like how long they can stay, if it is anything over 3 days, we do kind of just ask that you let the site team know. Obviously, we do need to have kind of bear in mind the impact it might have on other residents if they're staying long term and things like that. Yeah, 3 days is kind of the max without letting us know, and then we'll kind of assess that on kind of an individual basis. So this one I'm going to field for you, Lawrence. So this one is, are you able to get a dyslexia test when you arrive at uni, and is this easy to do?
Remember to unmute myself. the challenge of virtual environments these days. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of if you were arriving at university without a dyslexia test, very much we can kind of help support you with that. In terms of the normal steps, we have screening kind of tests that we can send to students to get an idea of kind of where you sit within that. And then we can kind of help advise to get that full kind of test or diagnostic kind of assessment in place. What we would be looking to do whilst you're kind of going through that process is to put support in place as well. So it's not a case of if you don't have kind of that diagnostic assessment that there's no support. I guess it would be then looking at things like study skill support, or potentially putting things in place on a temporary basis until that report arrived. And it was going to probably be a bit of theme when I'm kind of talking today, but if that's kind of the situation you're in, we'd very much be encouraging you to reach out to the service so we can start to pick that up with you as we move along.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Lawrence. So I'm going to field this one to you, Carl. Are parents allowed to help when moving in, or is that restricted because of the pandemic?
Thanks, Dan. So to give an example of last year, we did allow arriving students to bring one supporting person with them who could be a parent, and but we did put restrictions on that person being able to go into the building. However, in order to help with that, we do provide lots of trolleys, and at some of our high-rise sites we did have a team who were able to use cages to get the belongings up to rooms as quick as possible to assist with that due to the lack of help they could get from parents. What we'll do this September will very much depend on how things progress and government guidelines. Obviously, the more support you can have on your arrival, the better, and we will obviously in a normal year we would not have a restriction of how many people you bring with you. So again, people do like to tend to bring, you know, parents or family members, and then that allows them to extra assistance in moving to a room. But as I say, that's an example of what we did this last year. This year we will have to wait and see, but obviously the less restrictions, the better from our perspective, as I'm sure it is for everyone else as well.
Thank you very much. So next up we have another one for you, Lawrence, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Someone's asked, are there any additional fees or costs for wellbeing support or counselling services?
There is not. Yeah, the wellbeing, kind of the counselling, all the general support that we kind of offer and spoken through today, it is very much here as part of the kind of that package. So if you're looking to kind of access first support, the counselling services, yeah, it is just a case of getting in touch with no additional fees.
Great, thanks. That's a really good question. I'm sure there were a few people that were wondering that, so thank you to whoever asked that. This one is another one for you, Carl. What is the cost of kitchen/food packs if we're providing them at the time?
Kitchen packs, I think they are around £20 to £25. I must admit, I don't know the exact price off the top of my head. So it's sorry, kitchen and food packs.
Yeah.
I must admit, so in terms of the food packs, they were provided to students who were needing to self-isolate or were needing to quarantine on arrival. And feel free to, I'm just thinking we've got Rachel Wooden on who might be able to help me with this one. But from my understanding, those were given out, they were not charged for because they were part of the support package that we were providing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Let's have a little look. What else have we got here? Lawrence or Jenny, whoever one out of you two maybe wants to field this, I'll leave it up to you, or maybe you can both kind of chime in with your own tips. But someone's asked, what sort of support is available for homesickness, and any tips before I leave to go to uni for dealing with that? Lawrence, do you want to jump in first, and then if Jenny's got anything she wants to add, or?
Yes, sorry, I didn't catch the end bit. So in terms of support beforehand.
Sorry, so it's, what sort of support is available for homesickness, and have you got any tips before coming to uni?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I guess in terms of homesickness, it's something that we take quite seriously in terms of obviously coming to a new area. It can be kind of hopefully a really positive experience, but again, it's quite natural to kind of miss certain aspects of things. I mean, we do run a number of kind of workshops and have things like drop-ins kind of basically kind of evolved around that area. I guess the sorts of things we kind of normally encourage people to think about, particularly when maybe thinking about homesickness, would be things like maybe bring some personal belongings along with you. So I guess kind of making your room kind of your own. Also in terms of maybe thinking about continuing to stay in touch with home. If this proves anything, things can be done very virtually at the moment. So yeah, kind of continuing that kind of conversation is going to be helpful. I think it is the sort of thing, if possible, trying to get involved with things is going to be helpful. I think no matter how nice the room that you provided in halls is, I think if you're spending every day, all day in there, it is going to get a little bit claustrophobic. So if you can kind of get out and see people, that often is going to be a really good step. But yeah, I think it's the sort of thing that if you are feeling concerned about homesickness, again, there'll be plenty of opportunities to kind of talk to the team here and kind of come up with a bit of a plan for managing that.
That's great. Thank you very much. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Jenny, or any top tips from Student Life for dealing with homesickness?
Yeah, I mean, they can always contact Student Life. Are available 365 days a year, 24/7. So even if you wake up in the middle of the night, you're homesick, there is always somebody you can talk to. We are there and, you know, we're willing to talk. What we normally suggest is you have a look at societies and join a good lot of societies that you take your interest. That's what we would normally suggest as well.
Awesome. Whilst we've got you kind of on camera there, Jenny, there is a next question that I think will be quite good for you, and is a real good one for Student Life. Someone's asked, how easy and how approachable are the people that you go to get help? Someone says they're worried that if they needed it, they would be too worried to reach out and ask. So yeah, maybe you want to start that, and then maybe we'll go back to Lawrence to finish off for his support services.
Yeah, no worries at all. Student Life are, at the moment, we're based in building 37, but hopefully by the start of the next academic year, we will be based around halls as well. We normally have a member of staff at each main hall site throughout the night. During the day, we're based normally in Glen Eyre. We can meet students at any hall site, so that's not a problem at all, or we can meet them anywhere on campus. So we're available either by phone, face-to-face or email, and we generally wear a purple outfit uniform, you can see behind me, and we generally have a nice wander around campus as well. So if you ever see anybody with the purple tops on with Student Life written on the back, by all means just come and say hi and we can have a chat. And you know, if you want to go to a room and have a chat with us face to face, that's no problem either.
Thanks, Jenny. And if we just hand over to you, Lawrence, as well, just for a little kind of follow up on that from the point of some of the other support services and how easy they are to access and how approachable they are.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think Jenny's covered a lot of kind of the good points there in terms of people being around and very accessible. I think the other thing just to mention from our services is for students that are registered with the team, you will be given a named practitioner for your time here. So that would be someone you would have met with often before your kind of arrival. I guess at the moment that might be virtually, and then they'll be assigned to you kind of throughout your kind of studies here. So again, if you kind of needed to reach out, you've got that person that's got that kind of understanding of kind of the background, and hopefully should be able to kind of pick things up a little bit more easily, have that kind of working relationship and things. We do also offer things like drop-in services and other kind of touch points where, yeah, if you do need to kind of reach out, you can. I guess the other thing that I would mention is, I guess, particularly sometimes maybe coming in and doing things either face-to-face or virtually can be a challenge. We do also offer live chat options kind of through our website. So again, if maybe kind of starting off with a text-based query is maybe a little bit easier for you, that can be the start point of that kind of conversation, and we can kind of take things on from there.
Awesome, thank you very much, Jenny and Lawrence. I hope whoever submitted that question that's kind of answered that for you. Next up, we have one, are there room inspections? So I'll take this one. Yes, there are room inspections throughout the year. We're just checking that the room is in kind of a good state of cleanliness, and that you've kept it clean, and that there's no kind of health and safety issues. It's also a good opportunity for you to kind of flag any issues with us and make sure that we fix things. But yeah, there are room inspections kind of in October usually. We didn't do them last year because of coronavirus, and obviously it wouldn't have been appropriate for us to be going around and kind of knocking on everyone's doors. So I'm not sure whether or not they will definitely be happening this academic year, but they are usually something that happens. Okay, and also, sorry, just to go over a question about the food packs earlier. We have just double checked, and food packs are £35 when people arrive. Okay, on to some more questions. So I'll give this one to you, Carl, if that's all right. Please, could you explain the difference in contract length for accommodation? So someone's asked for an explanation for 38-week standard, semester 1 and semester 2. Which would you recommend?
So it very much depends on your course and your academic needs. So just to give a general overview, all of our contracts have a start date in September, and depending on the length, so you can either go for a 36, 38 or 40 week, which would cover you through until June, July time, depending on which one of those you picked. Just one thing to highlight with the 36-week contract, that doesn't include Easter, so you would need to vacate, but that's only a very small percentage of our rooms, and it's made clear when you apply. You can also apply for a 51-week contract, although for most undergraduate students that wouldn't be applicable. In regard to, again, your course, it may be for certain people's studies, you may only need to be here for semester 1, or you may not be arriving to semester 2. So again, you can apply so that you have either a January start date, or that you just need to come for that first semester. So again, it's very much dependent on your personal circumstances and your academic needs, but as I say, with our contracts, there is flexibility with that, and when you apply, you can just make sure that you pick the one that fits best with your academic needs. What I'd also say is, if you're on a course that potentially has a summer placement, which may or may not be in Southampton, what I would recommend is you apply for a 38, 40-week contract, and then nearer the time when you find out where your placement is, we open up a form where you can apply for an extension, which would take you into the summer period as well. So if in those circumstances, that opens around March each year. Once you know where your placement is, you can apply for an extension. Where possible, we try and make that in your room that you're currently in, but in some instances you may need to move to another room, but we will find you that accommodation, as I say. So we're well aware of many academic needs that students have, and we have contracts to meet those needs.
Thanks, Carl. Just to kind of add to that, a couple of people have asked about arriving early for their contracts as well. So like Carl said, that's fine as well. Like, if you do have a legitimate reason because of your course for arriving early, just let us know. We'll make sure that we can kind of facilitate that for you. This is one for you, Lawrence. Someone has asked, how do I access extra time for exams?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of accessing extra time, it would just be a case of getting in touch with enabling services. Normally what we would ask to kind of then review that extra time would be medical evidence. So information either from your doctor or from a specialist, just outlining that diagnosis. So then once we're looking at the reasonable adjustments we're putting in place, just to kind of, so we can justify that to the examination board. But then that would be a conversation we would kind of have with you, then with the exams team to kind of get that in place. I guess the thing, you normally have a bit of time once you arrive. So if you haven't been in touch with us before you come here, I think as long as you're in touch with us before November, we can start to then pick that up with you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Lawrence. So I'll give this I'll take this one. So someone said masks are mandatory on site, but are they compulsory when in accommodation common spaces? Yes, at the moment they are. So if you're using a common room, which we only have, we have had open for kind of study and stuff, you do need to wear a mask when you're in them because they are mixed households in there. Similarly, you need to wear it when you're in reception and moving through the corridors. In fact, the only place inside where you don't need to wear one is when you are in your own flat. So yes, they are mandatory to wear around the rest of the site, and that's true for staff and for students. This is one for you, Carl. Does the university provide a place to quarantine for international students entering the country?
Yes, we do. So last year we had quarantine flats put aside, and also we put in procedures so that people could quarantine in their own room in some instances as well. Again, very much we were keeping an eye on the guidelines at the time, and depending on where students are coming from, the government guidelines on whether people needed to quarantine or not. As I mentioned before, we did support people in those areas as well, and so they carried out their quarantine, and if it was in one of our specific quarantine areas, we would then assist them with moving to their main room once they had completed that quarantine period. So, and again, that's continued throughout the year as well. So we do as much as we can to, as I say, support the students in those instances, and we're constantly reviewing what the current guidelines are as well, so that we can best meet the needs of our students. So, as I say, we do have students throughout the world. We're a very international university, so again, we've done as much as we can to help support people in those instances. And each year we have a meet and greet to help international students arrive from abroad. And again, a lot of effort's been put into that to make sure it meets the needs at the time, given government guidelines. So again, it just gives you that extra peace of mind and extra support. But again, if you've got any concerns regarding your arrival nearer the time, please feel free to get in touch. And as I say, we will have quarantine facilities available as well, again this year.
Thank you very much, Carl. Another one that I'll take, it says, are students allowed to order and purchase items for their room? And if so, are there any restrictions to what a student can have in their room? Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, obviously you can order like stuff for your room. You don't just have to have like the bare bones room that we give you. We would encourage you to order some stuff to make it much more homely. But there are some things that you can't have in halls. So common ones are things like candles and anything with a naked flame. Basically anything that's a fire hazard. So we don't usually let people have kind of their own heaters in the room, kind of heated air, heated dryers, things like that. They're kind of the common ones. Less common ones are people trying to bring in like mini washing machines and dryers and stuff. You can't bring them, unfortunately, either. And if you do bring things like chairs, just make sure that they do meet British fire safety standards. Most chairs bought in this country will do, and same with like electricals, they need to meet British standards, and that's same for any adapters that you might have. For more information, I would check our kind of halls regulations, which you can easily find on our accommodation website, but that will give you a full kind of list of things that you can and can't bring. And there's also a list on our accommodation website of things that you definitely should bring when you are coming to halls as well. Here's a good one that I think will be quite good if we get a first answer from Carl from kind of the residences side, and then a second bit of an answer from Jenny from the student life side. But the question is, how does security at each hall deal with drug usage and alcohol consumption on site? Carl, do you want to kind of go at it from the residences side, and then Jenny, do you want to kind of talk about the student welfare side of that after Carl?
Cool. Yes. So in terms of, if I start with alcohol, people can drink on our sites. We don't have any bars or anything like that on our hall sites, but people can drink. What I would say is, obviously, we always encourage people to kind of know their limits and look after themselves. In addition to that, you can apply, when you apply for halls, you can apply to go into an alcohol-free flat, which is not guaranteed, but what we try and do in those instances is all the people that apply for alcohol free, we obviously put you together in a flat so that to meet that need as much as we can based on how many people go for that option each year. We introduced that last year and we had quite a good uptake on that, and so we were able to create a number of alcohol free flats. In regard to drug use, illegal substances, things like that, obviously we don't have a tolerance for that, and obviously we follow the law of the land with that. That is dealt with by our misconduct team in terms of if that is, we become aware of those circumstances. So again, we do try and kind of support students with kind of education and encourage them not to do those things, as well as I say, going through our misconduct processes which we have in place. But if I hand over to Student Life, you might be able to add a bit more in terms of your support for those situations.
Hi, yeah, if a student is drunk, we will generally get a call from security and we can go down and help the student back to their room, just keep an eye on them, make sure that there's somebody there that will monitor them overnight. Then Student Life will generally follow up with them the next day just to make sure that they're okay and just have a chat about, safe drinking limits and that sort of thing. The same with drugs. If obviously we're aware that they've consumed some drugs, we will monitor them appropriately and make sure that they're looked after. If it's a case of an ambulance, then it would be an ambulance, and again, Student Life would follow up the following day with them just to see how they are, and if necessary, pass them on to enabling services if we feel that there's an underlying problem that's caused it. Perfect.
Thank you very much, Carl and Jenny. Just to add, one of our supervisors in the Student Support Hub has just highlighted that for a lot of people, even though UCAS will say that your course starts on the 1st of September, that doesn't usually mean that your course will actually start then. It's just the date that they put. So for most people, if it does say that, your course won't start until kind of Freshers Week and after Arrivals Weekend anyway. So don't worry too much if that's what UCAS is saying at the moment. Okay, then I guess last couple of questions really, but we'll hand one over to you, Lawrence. Is there a nightline or someone you can call for emergencies throughout the night?
So this might sit a little bit better with Jenny in a moment, but I mean, we do have things like student kind of based sort of lines where people could kind of talk. But I mean, Jenny, I don't know if you wanted to jump on for this, because I feel like you're perfectly kind of placed to maybe walk us through.
Yeah, that would be Student Life. We're available 24 hours a day. Any emergencies, generally call us or email us. If you'd rather not speak on the phone, you can email and we can meet you in person. Even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, we have advisors that can see you face to face if you need it. Obviously, if it's a security problem, then there is Securitas during the night that patrol and are in all halls. But for support, wellbeing support, Student Life, they go to 24 hours a day. So yeah, middle of the night, Student Life is there.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So a couple of questions that I'll just pick up quickly. Someone's asked, is there Wi-Fi in halls and is there an additional cost? Yeah, of course, there's super fast Wi-Fi in our halls, and no, there's no cost for that. And someone said, if you order things online, like from Amazon, are we allowed to get them delivered to our rooms or building to pick up? So any deliveries will go straight to reception and be processed there, and you can pick them up 24 hours a day because, like I say, our receptions are open all the time. Let's have a quick scroll through and see what else is there. Carl, do you want to take this one? Someone's asked how much storage is in each room, like underbed storage and things like that.
Yes, it obviously differs a bit between each of the rooms, but each room will have a wardrobe and some storage space for your kind of clothes, both hanging clothes or any folded clothes. A number of the rooms have storage drawers underneath the beds as well. Within the in terms of storage, in terms of the kitchen, there are ratios that we work to in terms of each student in the flat having a shelf in the fridge and in the freezer, and you will have some cupboard space as well to put your belongings, your kitchenware and things like that in as well. So you'll see that regardless of the size of the flat, we will be working to those ratios. So obviously there's enough facilities within those communal areas to cater for the amount of residents that are in that flat.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I think that's pretty much it for time. So I hope we've managed to get through quite a lot of your questions today. Like I said earlier, if there are any questions that we haven't managed to answer, we are going to kind of collate them all after all of the sessions, and then we're going to put together a video answering a lot of them, and we'll put that on our Accommodation Open Week website. So yeah, thank you very much for attending, everyone. We do still have another session tomorrow called Applying to Our Halls. So please tune in for that for some kind of detailed information about the application form and the different options on that. But yeah, thanks very much, everyone, and we look forward to welcoming many of you into halls in September.